Hi, I'm Jamie Harnish. I'm with Bosley Real Estate, and I am lying on a bench in a park on a beautiful fall day, and today I'm going to answer some questions. Okay, first one, how do I buy a home if I have bad credit? That's going to be tough. You'll want to work with your lender, you'll want to work with a mortgage broker or somebody at the bank. You probably will require a cosigner, but even then, that could be really tricky. You'll want to try and repair your credit as best you can. Contact Equifax or TransUnion and see what you can do to improve your credit score. Are there government incentives for first-time home buyers? So yes, there are. The first two are certain types of accounts. So there's a first-time home buyer's savings account. There's also a first-time home buyer's plan that exists with an RSP. They basically are two different kinds of bank accounts that you can make contributions to in a tax-free way, and then you can withdraw the money for the purpose of buying a home in a tax-free manner. You know, using the RSP as an example, withdrawing from your RSP is not something that you can do tax-free. So that's there's some good incentives there. There's also a first-time home buyer's tax credit of I think around $1,500, and then there's also land transfer tax rebates. There's a rebate for municipal, so if you're buying in Toronto, there's also a rebate that exists for the Ontario provincial portion as well. Can you get out of a conditional offer? It depends. In Canada, we're supposed to be negotiating contracts and offers in good faith. So the reason that you would be getting out of a conditional offer is because of the condition. So for example, your offer is conditional on getting financing satisfactory to you, the buyer. If you are unable to get satisfactory financing, then you would use the condition to pull the plug on the deal. If your deal was conditional on home inspection and you found something with the help of the inspector that made you not want to buy the home anymore, then yes, you could use the condition to try and get out of the offer. Now, the seller always has the option of calling your bluff. So if you are using a condition to get out of a deal for reasons outside of the wording of your condition, that could be a problem for you. Because if the seller decides to call your bluff and essentially ask you to prove that you are pulling out of a deal based on your condition, and you can't, then you've got a big problem because you're in breach of the contract. So your deposit could be at jeopardy, and certainly more than that. So please be very mindful that if you're going into a conditional offer, you are only using the terms of the condition in conjunction with your circumstances to get out of the deal. How do you find out what area has the best schools? Watch my previous video. I've done a full YouTube video on that exact topic. But one quick thing that you can do, you certainly can check the Fraser Institute school rankings just to see what the score is. That's not the be all and end all. A surefire way that takes a little bit of legwork on your part, go to the closest park next to the school, find some parents that have school-age kids, and just ask them. They will tell you. Boots on the ground. It's a great way of finding out whether the school is any good or not. Does marketing and social media matter when you're selling your home? My personal take is absolutely. When you're selling a home, what I think is super important is exposure and trying to get maximum exposure for a property. Sales for almost anything is all about having a funnel and making the top of the funnel as wide as possible so that you're capturing absolutely the eyeballs, the most attention that you can. Because the wider the funnel at the top, the more you're going to get out of the bottom of the funnel. And the bottom of the funnel would be like qualified offers from real buyers. So the more that's going into the top, the more you've got coming out the bottom. So the more marketing that goes into a property, the better the social media coverage, the different kinds of exposure that a property can get, the better. So yes, I'm a big believer in those things for sure. Should I buy in a trendy area or in an up-and-coming area? It depends on your budget. If your budget can allow for either one, my personal take is that up-and-coming areas sometimes take longer than you'd think to become those trendy areas. Not always, but in a lot of cases. So if you're thinking of buying in an up-and-coming area because you want to try and capture that appreciation and that upside, it might take longer than you think. So it depends on your timelines. If you're planning on being in that home and in that area for a long time, and the up and coming area provides for the most part what it is that you need from the neighborhood, then I would say go for it. But if you think there's a chance that you might be in that home for a relatively short period of time, and for me that would be 5 years or less, and your budget allows, I would go for the trendy area. What should I do if I want to sell and I've got kids? I have kids too, so I totally understand this question. If at all possible, you definitely want to try and move out for a week or so. Now, I say that answer, you might roll your eyes, say, I don't have anywhere to go and take my family of 4. What am I going to do then? If that's the case, we try to manage showing times as much as possible. So restricting showings to no later than 7:30 p.m., but you're out in the evenings a fair amount because that's when the vast majority of your showings are going to be. You try and protect those times that are important to you. Obviously depends on the age of the kids, all that stuff, but you're gonna have to manage showings and the family needs at the same time. Should you buy now or wait in this condo market? So for me, it depends on what kind of condo you're looking to buy. So what I have seen is that there are still some reasonable price changes, decreases that are kind of happening slowly over time in the smaller 1-bedroom and maybe even 1+ den. And maybe 2-bedroom, but it sort of depends on the layout and whether it does or doesn't come with parking and all that kind of stuff. But I've seen a little bit of a bottoming out for 2-bedroom condos that are fairly attractive. So they're a good square footage, they're in a building where the maintenance fees aren't too high, probably comes with parking, and in a fairly desirable area. I have always been of the opinion in both amazing markets, flat markets, and down markets that you buy when the timing is right for you and not necessarily based on market dynamics. So for me personally, if the timing is right, if you're lined up financially and you come across a condo that you really like, I personally would probably make the move on it. What is the theory behind a suitable offer price? So this Reddit question actually has more to do, I think, with negotiation. And it went on to say that the proper way to do it was to just offer 20% below market value. The cynic in you might hear me say, that's crazy talk, and say, well, of course he's gonna say that. He's a real estate agent, he has a vested interest in keeping prices high, and et cetera, et cetera. Sure. But I only ever get paid if a deal actually gets done. So there is that. So in order for a deal to happen, you have to have two sides that agree on what's going to happen. In most cases, a seller has probably worked with an agent to determine what their asking price should be. And what they should have done, and this doesn't always happen, but what should have done is they would base it upon other sales that have happened either in the building or in the neighborhood. So it should already be kind of close to what those things have already happened. That is typically how it goes. So the only way as a buyer that you're getting a great deal by offering way, way less than the asking price is if because there are some kind of circumstances inherent to the seller in their situation that would make them want to sell hastily and for a large discount. So maybe they're going through a divorce, or maybe they've lost their job, or maybe think about some kind of circumstance that would stress them financially and make them say, fine, we just need to get rid of this and move on. In order for that to happen, you have to be making a lot of offers because those kind of circumstances are not necessarily common or frequent. So you have to be offering on a lot of different places in order to kind of suss those kinds of circumstances out. My opinion is you need to be working with your agent to find places that are improperly priced. So you're not necessarily just automatically offering 20% below, but you're finding properties that have missed the mark in pricing, and then you're getting a deal that's still probably in line or maybe below where previous deals are because they have mispriced it and they probably have been sitting on the market for a very long time. If you want more detail or more explanation on any of the questions that I've tried to address now, always happy to do that. And if you have any questions yourself, instead of posting them on Reddit and getting answers from somebody who's maybe not a real estate expert, you're certainly more than welcome to send them my way, and I'm happy to answer them as well. Thanks for spending some time with me in a beautiful park. It's Dovercourt Park, by the way. It's lovely, and we'll see you next time.